the outsides aren't necessarily, like that book cover isn't necessarily what the contents of the unit looks like, but the vast majority is just right there in the middle, which is nice, clean, affordable. Bro, this dude is a slumlord, LOL, that's got 4,000 likes. Not a slumlord, a gentrifier. He's even renting out the shed. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you rent out the shed? You can, sheds, garages, parking spaces, all those things can be additional revenue generators for a landlord, right? It's not how many cool places you own that determine your return, it's the amount of tenants. This guy gets it. I don't know, it's really interesting how judgmental people are on the internet. Students. What is up YouTube, Matt McKeever here, and in today's video, well, it's actually been about a year since my buddy Stephan came down to London, Ontario and shot a video with me where we just kind of went through my entire portfolio here in London. Let's do it.
What the hell is up with this weather, man? What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
This is the second property I ever purchased. We bought back in 2010 for $250,000. It's worth now probably about 4.25. They would punch this wall.
Why?
So, because they're students.
Do you guys ever punch walls? I have never punched a wall in my life. Oh my, this is disgusting, man. I can't tell if that's coffee or blood. And what's with this spray paint on the side? What is that?
There's spray paint?
Yeah, there is.
Son of a I didn't even know that existed.
Oh man, this
that
is
actually
real,
sucks.
you guys. This is real.
How the are we going to get that off?
This is like real life Monopoly.
Trying to. Collecting a lot of greenhouses right now, but soon we're going to upgrade to red. That's at least, that's got to be another $100 a month.
Oh, easy, easy. Someone can sleep there. That's another unit, right?
Right there.
Okay, cool.
And you know, there's almost 1.5 million views and a ton of comments on that video. A lot of people wanted me to answer some questions, some people jumping to some conclusions about myself and my business operations. And I thought it would just be fun to kind of jump into the comment section with you guys and chat through some of the crazy comments that the Graham fam left me there in the comment section. So let's jump right into it. All right. So it's probably been 6 months, 8 months since I've even looked at any of these comments, so I'm not really sure what to do, but we'll check it out. All right, so it looks like one of the top comments is from Michael Everson. Bro, this dude is a slumlord, LOL, that's got 4,000 likes. Let's just see what some of the top responses were here, and then I'll give my response. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a slumlord, but he is definitely buying units in the slums and going for the basics and milking it. I understand not adding anything to college rentals, but the primary ones should be way better taken care of on the outside. Okay, so right there, there's kind of an interesting comment. So let's talk about first the slumlord comment. Just straight up, until 2019 when I moved into this house, every one of my rentals were just as nice or nicer than the property I lived in. Floor, that was my very first apartment where I started shooting my YouTube videos in. You guys maybe remember I had that like human-sized whiteboard that I actually had made myself just out of a sheet of metal. And so I find it funny. Also, I'm really curious, like, of the 4,000 people that like this, whether their apartments all have granite countertops and brand new hardwood floors and things of that nature. I actually would say that my average unit here in London is literally right in the median. So I've definitely got some lower end rentals, I've got some higher end rentals, but the vast majority is just right there in the middle, which is nice, clean, affordable. And what's interesting, you know, Jeremy Sims here saying that I'm milking it for all it's worth and that my rentals need to look nicer on the outside. Just so everyone's aware, very rarely, one, do tenants really care what the outside of their building looks like versus the inside. Secondly, as a landlord, we're almost always going to get a better ROI fixing up the inside of our units rather than the outsides. So when we're going around looking at my properties, again, the outsides aren't necessarily, like that book cover isn't necessarily what the contents of the unit looks like. But again, my units are actually pretty solid. I don't know if everyone thinks that every property needs to be, you know, a whatever 2,000 square foot brand new brick property, but like these are just normal houses in London, Ontario, and I'm fascinated the strong reaction people have. Yeah, I actually appreciate Darius here who said not a slumlord, a gentrifier, and I think that's important also to get some context there in regards to looking at the neighborhoods that we're often buying in. So the neighborhoods I'm often buying in and the properties I'm often buying from, I would definitely classify at least as more slumlord-esque than myself. I don't believe I'm a slumlord in any way. Some of the people I buy from aren't slumlords either, but there definitely are properties where I buy from slumlords that haven't done renovations or upgrades in decades. I do think that's unfortunate, and that's one of the reasons why we buy those properties, is because there's a lot of opportunity because of that deferred maintenance, because of that neglect from the previous owner. But again, it's fascinating to see all the reactions. Someone here saying Michael Moore lied to us about all the Canadian standards of living. Again, that's fascinating that people jump to such an extreme conclusion about Canada from this series of videos. And I don't know, it's really interesting how judgmental people are on the internet. All right, so let's keep scrolling. We'll move past the first set of comments on being a slumlord, and we'll see what else is going on here. Okay, so someone responding kind of about my glasses. So after all this hustle, he finally saved up to get contact lenses. Spoiler alert, I still got the exact same pair of glasses.
Despite owning over a dozen properties, he still wears glasses that are broken on the side, as you can see from here. That is how you do frugality.
And so because I know both Graham and everyone on Graham's channel love the glasses, I do actually still have these glasses. The lenses still work, they're still good, guys. I can still see fine. And I've never bought contacts. I really only use my glasses for driving. It's not like I have to read from the blackboard anymore in school, so there's just not a lot of need or necessity for me to have be farsighted. But at some point in time, I'll probably get LASIK, but at the same time, I'm probably just in my headspace about it, but the idea of lasers in my eyeballs, it seems a little intimidating, but I've got friends that have done it, so we'll probably do it at some point. Don't rent to a house full of Kyles. Yeah, I hear Yuli on that comment because we have rented once to a house full of what I believe people would call the stereotypical Kyles. It was the entire baseball team from Fanshawe, and I didn't realize that young kids chewed tobacco, but literally every one of these students chewed tobacco, and there was just hundreds of tins of chew all over the property, and literally just like hundreds of water bottles that were being used as spit jugs. It was so disgusting, guys. Yeah, I don't think I would ever rent to that type of tenant again. They were extremely rough on my property. They held a lot of parties, and it was disgusting, all the nicotine and chew and spit bottles. But again, it's really hard to know necessarily until you've developed a real instinct as a landlord and got a lot of experience. And there is a danger in judging a book by its cover in every situation. Brody said, punched a hole in the wall so they could see people in the toilet. Something tells me you grew up in a very different demographic. This is what you call a glory hole. It's not for eyes. Brody, no, I mean, they literally tore out the entire wall between the bathroom and the hallway. So not a glory hole, literally just a pass-through.
One! Oh no! Oh yeah!
You could literally walk through the wall if you were skinny enough to get between the studs. So, students. She said, I mean, he's counting the revenue, not telling the actual profit. He should be telling the expenses too, like bills, repairs, etc. Absolutely. This video was just focused on kind of trying to create some clickbait around the gross revenue rents. And understand gross revenue by no means is reflective of your net revenue. It really does come down to your margin. And that's something that, one, we didn't have the length of video to cover in this, and two, I don't necessarily deep dive and just show everything on my properties. But if you are interested in seeing individual properties or projects, I do break down the numbers pretty in depth, and you can check it out on my other YouTube videos. This dude needs a management company for his properties. absolutely agree with you. Outsourcing management, though, is actually quite difficult as a landlord. You know, whenever we've tried to do it in the past, we've really struggled. At this point in time, we have internalized it. So we've got a couple full-time property managers that work for us. And definitely, as you grow your portfolio and as you grow as an investor, it is important that you keep hiring out different aspects of the work and different aspects of the property management and things of that nature, because otherwise what ends up happening is you just buy yourself a job. And a lot of landlords fall to this mentality of they end up buying themselves a job. And part of the reason they end up buying themselves a job and can't outsource the property management is when they're running their numbers, they actually lie to themselves and they don't ever put in a property management byline or like an expense line. And because they never add that expense line, when they run their numbers, they lie to themselves about what their cash flow is going to be. They then get addicted to that cash flow, and now when it's time to continue to scale their portfolio, they can't because they don't want the trade-off or the expense of bringing on a property manager. Hey YouTube, have you guys been enjoying the sponsorship splash page we have at the end of every YouTube video now? Do you guys like it? Are you a business owner or maybe just a real estate influencer or investor and you'd like more exposure to potentially my YouTube audience? Well, now you can help support my YouTube channel as well as grow your personal brand or your business brand by sponsoring my splash page. It's really not that expensive, and if you want to find out more information, it'll be all below in the video description down. So just go grab it, reach out to my team, and let's chat. And they don't ever put in a property management byline or like an expense line, and because they never add that expense line, when they run their numbers, they lie to themselves about what their cash flow is going to be. They then get addicted to that cash flow, and now when it's time to continue to scale their portfolio, they can't because they don't want the trade-off or the expense of bringing on a property manager, because oftentimes that's going to put them at break even or potentially even a negative. So it's really important when we're running our numbers, when you're looking at analyzing a deal, that you're very honest with yourself about what the expenses are. And even if you're going to insource and do a lot of the work at the start yourself, you should still understand what those costs look like, because if the only way you can make money is by being free labor to your own business, well, understand again, all you've created is a low-paying job for yourself. You don't actually have a scalable, replicatable business, because at some point, you know, you're not going to be able to work for free on everything you own. He's even renting out the shed. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you rent out the shed? You can, sheds, garages, parking spaces, all those things can be additional revenue generators for a landlord, right? The same way that some landlords choose to put coin-operated laundry in their units rather than just free laundry. Again, it's all a business decision. Sometimes it may make more sense to include the garage with the rental unit, and you can charge more total for that. Sometimes it'll make more sense to break them off into separate rentals and rent them out individually. Again, it's just a business, it's just numbers and cents, and you just need to run through the different scenarios and figure out what's the highest best use for your rental property. Kimberly here time-stamped it at 1:57. I said, this is a student rental. Her response was, mine flashes back to college housing and house students 99% trash the place. 1:25 timestamp, the last students absolutely trashed it. Me sounds about right. Yeah, and again, it depends on the profile of tenants you're renting to, the school you're renting to. There's a lot of different factors. I do think Fanshawe College is a college that's relatively known for having students that enjoy their extracurricular activities. AKA partying, and with that comes certain costs, expenses, and frustrations as a landlord. But again, if we're building that into our spreadsheets, and if we're, you know, accounting for maybe higher than normal repairs and maintenance on that rental property, it can still make sense to own it. So I don't want to make it seem like owning these student rentals is a huge burden. And obviously, hopefully you guys realize for YouTube, you're often going to play things up as well. So, you know, we didn't go through the nice student rental I had that didn't get trashed. Of course, you're going to walk through the one that does get trashed. Part of the reason that I think that property consistently gets trashed is it's a massive house. The bedrooms are absolutely massive in it as well, and it's got these beautiful vaulted ceilings, which I think just encourage students to want to invite friends over and enjoy the space. And yeah, so I guess one pro tip here for anyone looking at buying student rentals, definitely think about how the space and layout encourages or discourages large groups and gatherings. Because we've noticed with our other properties that have a different layout, that don't have those vaulted ceilings, where the bedrooms aren't quite as massive, we can often rent them out for the same price, but we end up getting less damage because for whatever reason, I suspect it's the layout, students are less drawn to having large parties there. So just food for thought. Panzer here had a good comment. It's not how many cool places you own that determine your return, it's the amount of tenants. This guy gets it. Appreciate the love there, Panzer. And absolutely, it's not necessarily about having flashy properties. And oftentimes you'll find the flashy properties won't have the same ROI or return on investment that the less flashy properties. All my properties are kind of just in the median. They're just in the middle rental grade properties. It's boring, relatively speaking. Again, of course, we're going to bring up the craziest stories on a YouTube video, but 99% of my rentals, they just operate the exact same every month, very boring, not exciting, and that's what you actually want from your investment properties or any business. It shouldn't be exciting. If you're constantly feeling like you're on a roller coaster, understand that you're more likely gambling or risking it all rather than being a sophisticated investor who is unemotional and is bringing rational, logical thinking processes to their investment strategy. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and let us know, do you guys want more videos like this where I dive into the comment section? This was just one of the videos I've done on Stephan's channel, so we could dive back into the video I did, well, I guess now it's over 2 years ago with Graham, the very first time I was on his channel. If you guys would like to see us cover those comments and respond to them as well, or just dive deeper, maybe into some of the meaner comments as well, let me know. Just comment down below that you guys want to see more audience interaction, that you want to see me respond to more comments, and let us know what type of comments as well. Do you want me to respond to the serious people, or should I just troll the trolls? Let us know down below.